A few weeks ago, the hills near my house were on fire. A 12-mile stretch of moorland burned by a disposable barbecue. And it made me question what I would do if it threatened my home. Everything's easy when you're flying straight and level, but what do you do when you suddenly hit turbulence? What do you do when your world catches fire? Or in my world as an airline captain, a pilot, when the autopilot fails? How do you react when your world catches fire? Your business, your leadership, your life. I'm talking about geopolitics, climate change, burnout, AI, automation, budget cuts, broken systems, broken spirits, broken relationships. When the heat rises, what do you fall back on? Everyone thinks that pilots are heroic, especially pilots. Calm under pressure, steely-eyed professionals, instinctive, quick to act. But that's not what keeps you safe at 38,000 feet. Do you know what does keep you safe? Structure. In aviation, we don't wing it. We don't leave things to gut feeling. We solve problems before they happen, and we react to crises before the crisis. Aviation is full of acronyms that we use to help us to solve problems quickly and effectively. We use structured frameworks to prevent instinct becoming a liability. And most of all, we don't panic. We aviate. And that's the tool that I've developed using aviation's toughest lessons. And I'm going to share it with you later. Because if it works when lives are on the line, it works when your leadership is. But in business, we often do the exact opposite. We don't plan for things that are unexpected. We promote panic dressed as decisiveness. And we hope it'll all work out and call it leadership. We've created worlds where complexity, overcomplication, and automation have created disconnection like we've never seen it before. And I put it to you that human disconnection in a high-tech world is a real problem. We're surrounded by information, but still lacking clarity. We're connected by tech, but disconnected from reality. And the worst thing is we don't realize we're flying on autopilot until it fails. But this talk isn't about flying. It's about leading when the world is on fire. It's about understanding that panic is not a plan. Hope is not a strategy. Aviate is. And that calm is not what you are. It's something you practice. It's your superpower. And what you'll leave here today with is a tool to help you find your inner captain. I found out the hard way exactly what happened when my world caught fire. I failed my first attempt at becoming a captain. And I'm glad I did because of what it taught me. It was a simulated flight designed to test whether or not I was ready to be the captain. I had thousands of hours as an airline pilot behind me, and this was the culmination of months of training and years of experience. I thought I was confident, but in that test I missed things, I struggled. My capacity shrunk under pressure. I didn't follow the decision-making process we'd been taught to use, and I made mistakes that I couldn't get past. I failed because I didn't follow the process. And I drove all the way home in the pouring rain to my husband, who's also an aviator, and the shame of having to tell him I'd let him down. It taught me something I didn't know I was missing. It made me trust the process. A reliable way of thinking when the pressure hits, because under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. Now, failure doesn't define you, it refines you. And failure is data. The second time I passed. I used the data from my first attempt to improve. I didn't just fly the plane, I followed the framework like the one I've developed and call Aviate. We all need structure, we need clarity of thought. And sometimes that means finding the least worst option, because in chaos, structure isn't optional, it's essential. And what I'm about to share with you is more than just a model, it's a way of thinking, a way of leading, a way of being prepared when things move sideways. Because hope is not a strategy, Aviate is. First of all, there's a myth we need to dispel, and that's the myth of the heroic leader, because there isn't one. There is no natural leader who walks into chaos, senses the right move, and takes decisive action. We romanticize it, but in reality, under pressure, our brains don't get smarter, they get narrower. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop. In aviation, we don't leave life or death decisions to gut feeling. We practice for chaos, not by memorizing answers, but by rehearsing what we will do in what we call abnormal situations. We use structures like the one I am about to share with you shortly, I promise, and call A.V.I.A.T.E. But that's where leadership outside the cockpit often falls short. We promote people into chaos and hope that they'll manage. We're confusing position with preparation. In today's demanding, volatile, and noisy world, hope is not a strategy. A.V.I.A.T.E. is. Now, the solution I'm about to give you, I promise it is coming, works because of a simple fact. There are no new problems, only repeating patterns. Crises are predictable. Events are cyclical. They show up with different labels, but in reality, they're the same thing. And in disciplines like psychology, decision theory, military strategy, it's long been suggested that human challenges fall into recurring categories: security, belonging, control, change, connection, growth. In an aircraft, we categorize problems into things like electrical, hydraulic, communication, but in reality, they're problems of survival and security. You don't need to know the exact problem that you're dealing with. You just need to know the type of problem that you're going to be looking at. The same applies in your world, and it could save your career, your company, your team, even your sanity. A late product launch or broken supply chain. Is my job secure? A crisis of confidence or important client walking away. That's connection and also security. Somebody sends a calendar invite titled Quick Chat. No context, no agenda. That's change, and possibly security, depending on whether or not it's followed by bring HR. The director of innovation wants to reimagine the customer journey by making everyone walk through a scented forest on arrival. Belonging. The project steering group is now 17 people, including some bloke that always joins from a grind mid-decaf oat flat white, nodding like a hostage. That's control. And the CEO announces a new vision using words like moonshot and synergy in the same sentence. And frankly, that's grounds for resignation based on emotional duress. At some point, a team offsite will be suggested. Not a useful one, the kind where someone brings a talking stick and the director of finance ends up weeping into a flip chart because their ideas never get laminated. You know it, right? And at some point, the new intern will be tasked with a transformation project and be found sitting on the fire escape Googling how to be strategic while eating a Greggs sausage roll and questioning all life choices. Growth and meaning right there. Thing is that someone's faced all of these problems before. It's not a question of novelty, it's a question of clarity. And the good news is that you can train your eye to see the pattern, apply the process, and respond using clarity rather than chaos. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems to me that the world is lacking in great leadership these days. You think? As pilots, we prepare for pressure. We prepare to prevail. But I don't see enough leaders doing the same. We teach things like innovation, vision, strategy, but we don't teach people how to make decisions when the world is on fire, or the team is waiting, time is short, and there's no great option on the table. In 2020, COVID disconnected the autopilot across the aviation industry, and at the same time, it set fire to the NHS. Frontline staff were at breaking point. Meanwhile, grounded crew, like myself, were looking out over what felt like a burnt-out wasteland, wondering what was going to come next. From the ashes and with no real business experience, I built a solution to both problems, calling on one uniformed safety-related industry to wrap its arms around the other. Grounded aircrew supporting an exhausted NHS. And Project Wingman was born. We faced two problems: a grounded aviation industry supporting an exhausted NHS, and it worked even though we faced turbulence every single day because we didn't wing it. The NHS was facing a tsunami of potential doom while we needed to feel useful. We had 750 people sign up in 3 days to support the charity, and by the summer of 2020 we had 6,500 grounded aircrew volunteers supporting NH staff in 104 lounges across the UK and 2 in New York. You need structure to be able to manage a scale at that pace. You need a system, and you need to be able to prepare for the unexpected. We don't teach leaders how to do that, though. So they delay, or they shout, or they abdicate responsibility, or worse, they bulldoze through the problem with false confidence and zero clarity. That's not leadership, that's luck. And luck doesn't scale. And this is a real crisis we're facing now. We need to have a strong structure in place to help us to remain calm under pressure. And the model that I've created, and I am about to share with you, it takes the discipline of aviation and can be applied to everyday leadership. It's so simple, even a pilot can use it. And it's powerful under pressure. Whether your world's on fire or you're facing turbulence, you need a structure like A.V.I.A.T.E to help you. And here it is. A.V.I.A.T.E, validate, investigate, assess, talk, execute. A.V.I.A.T.E, fly the plane, navigate to a place of safety, communicate with the right people, keep the business running. Validate, is it the problem I think it is? Investigate, ask the right questions so that you can get clarity and context. Assess the options, risks, and benefits. Talk only to the right people. And execute, take decisive action. Allow me to demonstrate this using Project Wingman as an example. Cast your minds back, if it's not too painful, to March 2020. Faced staring into my own personal abyss, I had two choices. I could navel gaze or I could fall back on my training. I chose to aviate. We had these two problems, the grounded aviation industry and the tsunami of potential doom coming our way. I could see a solution to both problems, and I knew that we could aviate through it. Aviate, fly the plane, self-preservation, do what I could to support friends and colleagues and everything we could to stop the NHS from imploding. Navigate to a place of safety and security. Validate, is the problem what I think it is? Contacts in the NHS confirmed that what we were seeing on the news was just the tip of the iceberg. And meanwhile, crew needed to feel useful and were an untapped resource. Investigate. Ask the right questions to get context and clarity. What's going to become a problem later today, into tomorrow, and into next week? Assess. Weigh up the options, risks, and benefits. Crew are first aid trained. We could have gone clinical. But the real problem was one of emotional connection and support. So we built a system that was so simple it could plug and play into any space that was large enough for for staff to take a break. Simple, face-to-face connection. A conversation, a cup of tea, a warm blanket of care. Not replacing existing systems that were in place, but filling a hole that nobody else could. It worked because we had a structure. We didn't wing it. Hope was not our strategy. A.V.I.A.T.E was. Structure brings calm in high-stakes situations. It brings calm when we need clarity, calm in chaos, and it gives us the conviction that whatever we do next, we'll find a way through. And I think this point is worth making again. Structure removes ambiguity. It turns chaos into calm, and it gives headspace to lead. And if you can use this 37,000 feet at 600 miles an hour with 180 people sitting behind you, needing you to get it right, you can use it here in Manchester or at your desk, wherever you're sitting watching this talk. We're coming into land now, so please fasten your seatbelts. The toilets are no longer in use. We've never lived in a more turbulent or complicated world. We need leaders to take bold decisions and be accountable for them. You don't need to be fearless to lead under pressure, but you do need to be prepared. And being prepared means applying simplicity to the way you think, act, and lead, especially when the stakes are high. Whether in business, leadership, or in life, you don't need a pep talk, you need a process. Being calm is a skill. Leadership is a choice. Aviate is a process. The world is on fire, and we're letting it burn. Great leadership is what puts the fire out. Hope is not a strategy. Aviate is. Thank you.